Good evening. This evening I'm going to talk on building emotional strength. The first talk I gave when I began this series on the 8th of May was on emotional wellness in times of COVID-19. That talk was focused on how to cope emotionally with this pandemic in a particular way. But seeing that over the months, the uncertainty and ambiguity of this crisis hasn't diminished, I understand that what we are now witnessing is not just a health crisis. We are witnessing also an economic crisis and a change of life which is affecting all of us in many different ways. Entire industries like hospitality, aviation, and entertainment are almost totally shut. The COVID cost to the global economy is in trillions, and each day of the lockdown is costing the Indian economy close to $4 million. Over 130 million people are likely to lose their jobs. Everyone is feeling insecure and uneasy. We are facing a crisis of huge proportions. A scenario such as this presents a whole lot of challenges to our own personal way of living. There is this constant fear of being infected by the pandemic. Our jobs are under threat. Our incomes have diminished. Many have gone into depression because of being isolated. People are losing their cool and quite a few are lashing out at each other. Children are feeling stuck at home and unable to release their pent-up energies. Online classes and online work with the constant use of gadgets is causing so much of stress and strain to everyone. This condition, having gone on for the last 5 months and God alone knows for how long more, is driving everyone crazy. In such a situation, unless we develop some really good, healthy coping skills, the present crisis may end up getting the better of us. What we need presently is greater emotional strength. And if we develop this skill now, it will help us not just to cope with the present crisis, it will stand us in good stead all through our life. Being strong emotionally will help us to live happier and more contented lives. Let us consider a few scenarios. First, someone's boss screams at him. He feels offended and he screams back. He cribs about his boss to all his colleagues and then starts looking for another job. This same boss screams at another employee. He does feel hurt, yet this employee understands that what his boss did was not the best way to deal with a stressful situation. He waits for a few days for himself and his boss to cool down. He then fixes an appointment and addresses the issue with his boss. He shares with him how bad he felt at being shouted at. He also expresses that he understands the stress his boss is facing. He offers to help solve some of these work pressures due to which the stress builds up in the office situation. Take another case. A daughter-in-law has a tiff with a mother-in-law. She in turn has a series of fights with her husband saying he does not stand up for her. And in turn, she blasts out at the children for every small thing. Another daughter-in-law has a similar tiff with her mother-in-law. She does feel sad and upset about it, but she speaks to a friend and vents out her feelings and goes out for a walk. Then she speaks to her husband about the issue. She presents her side and also her mother-in-law's perspective. And together, they try to find a solution. And here's a third case. A group of kids are playing. One child calls another a stupid fool, useless and good for nothing. The child who's called a fool gets angry, swings his bat and hits the other very badly. A big fight ensues. Another kid, also called a stupid fool, useless and good for nothing, stands up for himself and says he won't tolerate being called names. He says he has come to play and make friends with everyone. Either he is treated with respect or he chooses to leave and go. The situation and triggers are the same. And yet, the second response of the employee, the daughter-in-law and the boy definitely seem healthier in nature. One often wonders from where this ability comes, namely to feel hurt and upset and yet not to react instantly, to stay calm and move towards a solution-oriented action. This ability is called emotional strength. It is the emotional strength muscle which then reflexes in a healthier manner to respond in a positive way at any given situation. Understanding emotional strength. How does this muscle build in us? Are we born with it or do we need to build it up? Let us ask another question. Is an athlete born an athlete or does he or she need to work to become an outstanding athlete? There could always be a predisposition to be an athlete, but conscious training is surely required to hone one's skills. Only then physical stamina is built in order to be able to run a marathon or to run in fast, short spurts, to enjoy your run and to better your own timing with each run. Just like everyone has a physical stamina and it can be worked upon to improve, there is also an emotional stamina which can improve and perhaps needs to be built up in every one of us. But unfortunately, our parenting, our society, the education and everything around us seem to be geared so much towards building our intelligence and physical health instead. Not many care to consciously build the most needed emotional health. Although research shows that to be happy and successful, our emotional quotient is far more important than our intelligence quotient. Emotions are critical to thinking. Emotions and thinking interact to create our awareness and decision making. Emotions are essential to successful human interactions. Using and managing emotions effectively assist in the process of learning, whether at home, at school, or at work. Emotional learning improves personal and social competencies. It decreases antisocial behavior and aggression. Discipline problems and suspicions are minimized. It improves school and work attendance and helps in achieving better overall performance. Emotional learning affects almost all areas of our life. What is this EQ that people talk about these days? It can be called the emotional stamina that helps you run through the steeplechase race in your life without being overly fatigued. It can be called the emotional strength muscle, which learns to reflex and helps you feel difficult emotions and yet not get so overwhelmed that it blocks you from finding appropriate solutions. It can be called emotional resilience, which lets you stay strong and in control in moments of crisis in life. It is that skill set which gives you the edge to stay cool, assess the totality of a situation, and calmly state how you would like to respond. It is the capacity to be aware of, control, and express your emotions, as well as to navigate interpersonal relationships with both good judgment and empathy. How do you build this emotional strength? Let us first start with the young. Parents can contribute immensely in building this aspect in a child. They can do so, first of all, by acknowledging the feelings of the child. Parents often tend to say, "You're a strong child, you're not hurt." And they say this even when a child is actually hurt physically or feeling down because someone is teasing him. When feelings are denied, these hurt feelings lurk inside a person, unexpressed and unacknowledged. They are taking up a space and energy in our system, and gradually our system gets choked and blocked with unheard and unacknowledged feelings, and no space is left to let the new stuff, new feelings of happiness, peace, growth or evolution grow within us. When someone says, "I am hurt," the appropriate response would be, "Tell me more about your hurt and how you feel." Parents can also help in building a child's emotional stamina by saying no at the right time. The trend today seems never to say no to a child. Yes, maybe earlier in our own childhood we were denied a lot of things, and no was a very common response that we received. We were even asked not to be seen and heard. If we touched anything in the house, we were shouted at and made to apologize. There are some parents who even today subscribe to this old methodology. But there are also many today who have swung to the other side of the pendulum. A child has just to wish for something and it is given to the child on a platter. Some parents believe that all desires and wishes of a child must be fulfilled. They believe that children must never be disappointed. As a result, children are unable to take no in the outside world. A girl refuses a proposal, a job is denied to someone, and it leads to self-harm. Any failure becomes a catastrophe. After all, they had never received a no previously. They grew up with a sense of entitlement and expecting immediate gratification for all their wishes. Delayed gratification in some things in life does teach all of us, especially children, many useful lessons. So with children, it is important to acknowledge their feelings and prepare them for a world where not all their wishes will be fulfilled. As adults, what can we do to build our emotional stamina and resilience? We can re-script and rewrite our thought processes. Whatever parenting style we have been through, the beautiful aspect of the gift of adulthood is that we can modify these scripts. It is by no means an easy job, yet with some awareness, consciousness, and maybe assistance from friends and at times from professionals, it is possible to unlearn some of the unhealthy messages we have received in the past. Maybe with the fights and arguments we witnessed in the family, we learned that people cannot be trusted with money. Maybe husbands have cheated on their wives, or the way to express anger we have seen is by hitting or yelling. But now as adults, we can learn that not everyone in this world is unreliable. We can learn that there are people we can trust. We can also learn that anger is a powerful and beautiful emotion which can also be expressed in a healthy manner. Changing one's thought process is not a matter of a day. It needs regular practice to actually bring about a change. Firstly, realizing that something from the past is affecting my faulty perception of the world. Then, forgiving the people who were contributors in the formation of those faulty thought processes. Next, forming new beliefs and ideas. And then finally, practicing these new set of beliefs and behaviors. until they become a way of life for you. Another important aspect of building your emotional stamina as an adult is to appreciate the gift of life given to you. Take care of your body and your health with regular breaks and stress busters. Nurture your talents and your potential by putting them to good use. Appreciate yourself by acknowledging the little positive steps you have taken in your life. Motivate yourself to do the best you can. Look at the brighter side and be a little more humorous in the way you go about. Learn to accept feedback positively, which can help you to grow. One more aspect that is in vogue to build emotional strength in both children and adults is called emotional embodiment. What we normally do when we have difficult emotions like anger, sadness, fear, or anxiety, we tend to deny these emotions, not pay attention to them, or distract ourselves by getting involved doing something else. For example, when we tell our friend that something is worrying us, the usual reply we will get is, "Don't worry, man, nothing will happen." The problem is, with that statement, our worry doesn't disappear. In fact, like all other emotions, our worry keeps lurking somewhere in the background. And when we are alone or we are trying to get some sleep, these worries return and causes a lot of distress. Emotional embodiment is allowing ourselves to be aware of these difficult emotions, learning to name the emotion we are feeling, understanding the impact of these emotions that they have on our body, and although uncomfortable, staying with that emotion for as long as possible. This is called affect tolerance. Each one has a particular window of tolerance. We cope best when our stresses and triggers operate within our window of tolerance. What emotional embodiment does is that it expands our window of tolerance so that we are able to cope with a lot more stress without getting overwhelmed and consequently being more in control. These are some ways by which we can take care of ourselves. When we practice these consciously and with some regularity, the pot of our emotional needs keeps getting full. Most people often expect others to take care of their own emotional needs. While it is true that others can help us to feel valued and loved, we must learn to fill our own emotional pots on our own. If we are not able to do that on our own, to attract someone else in our lives who will genuinely care and love for us, that will not be possible. All adult relationships must be mutual, which means while we expect others to meet some of our emotional needs, we too must be able to fulfill their needs in return. And for this, our emotional pot cannot be empty. Becoming successful in life. It is easy to see why professional success today is so dependent on EQ. Emotional intelligence is directly related to resilience, our ability to engage with challenges, sustain performance, rebound quickly from adversity, and learn and grow from our experiences. When you have developed an EQ, you can cope with stressful conditions and maintain a positive outlook, and you are less likely to get burnt out. Psychologist and author Daniel Goleman, one of the most prolific writers on the subject of emotional intelligence, breaks it down into 5 competencies. First, self-awareness. Recognize and understand our emotions and reactions. 2, self-management. Manage, control, and adapt our emotions, moods, reactions, and responses. 3. Motivation. Harness our emotions to motivate ourselves to take appropriate action, to commit, to follow through and work towards the achievement of our goals. 4th, empathy. Discern the feelings of others, understand their emotions and utilize this understanding to relate to them or with them more effectively. And 5th, social skills. Build relationships, relate to others in social situations, lead, negotiate conflict, and work as part of a team. So EQ comprises the following 5 skills: self-awareness, self-management, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Interestingly, Goleman discovered these competencies by studying high performers. What he looked at, what steps set leaders apart. The skills that make the difference were those of emotional intelligence. In other words, EQ isn't just a nice to have skill for high performers. It is the distinguishing factor. In fact, the value of emotional intelligence seems to jump dramatically with increased job complexity. Researchers found that those with high EQ are 127 times more productive than those with low EQ. And that EQ is responsible for a hefty 58% of job performance. And when professionals who have similar technical skills and intelligence are compared, EQ accounts for 90% of what gets people promoted within an organization. EQ is especially interesting when we think about teams. After all, social settings, which we find at work and elsewhere, are the most potent triggers of emotions in human beings. Skills like sensing others' developmental needs, being able to persuade them, resolving disagreements, and collaborating on shared goals helps teams strengthen the connections that drive their performance. Individuals with high EQ build strong, connected teams, and strong, connected teams go on to deliver exceptional results. So, in conclusion, the differences among us lie not only in the hardships we face, but also in how we respond to them. Do you find yourself weighed down by your seemingly unlucky lot in life? Or do you embrace the struggle? Emotional intelligence is the ability to cope with adversity and to use challenges to forge strength and prosperity. Having emotional strength does not mean that you don't struggle, that you don't make mistakes, or that you don't need to ask for help. Resilient people keep plugging along. Even when the situation becomes ugly or exhausting, they learn from their mishaps and misfortunes, and they rely on others with confidence and trust. Even when tragedy strikes, growth is possible. The positive changes that result from a traumatic experience are called post-traumatic growth. These changes can include a deeper appreciation for life, a bolstered sense of one's own capabilities, stronger connections with others, and a feeling that you can manage and cope with almost anything in life. We admire people who, in spite of great difficulties that they have faced in life, have not caved in. Instead, using their inner strength and all the resources available, they have come out tops. Agreed, it does take work to build emotional stamina. Yet we know it is fun when we have built a physical stamina that enables us to run a marathon or enjoy a strenuous game. The aches and pains are worth it. Similarly, the aches and pains which come by staying with and not running away from difficult feelings and emotions, by learning to befriend them, we will enjoy the journey of becoming emotionally strong. It will result in a life where we feel more in control of ourselves and the difficult situations that we face. We will earn the respect of others. We will also enjoy a more successful and a happy, contented life. May God, who promised to be with us always, especially in moments of trial, give us the strength not just to cope in life, but with His grace and our perseverance to become emotionally strong and resilient. God bless you.